Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon Over Baseball with your host Bob and co-host Peter.
How you doing, Bob?
We're back again for another depressing episode of the AL worst teams in the league.
Unfortunately, we finally got to the Detroit Tigers.
Yes, and sneak preview. This has a guy on the staff that I believe is the worst card in all of Showdown that we made, and is the most undraftable player. So we'll talk about that. But we also have some sneak peeks later that Peter will talk about. That's some fun stuff. So it won't be all depressing. And there is actually a couple draftable guys on this team, unlike the Orioles.
Thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully. Now, they didn't do much better than the Orioles. They had under 2,000 total points as a team, and two of those players have 300 points. So without those two guys, they're really pretty bad. And the funny thing was, they didn't even finish last in the AL Central.
They didn't even finish second to last.
I know. So it's interesting. Obviously, there's no Miggy on this team. He was hurt most of the year, but hopefully they'll turn it around next year. But I don't know. Do you know if they have a good farm system coming up?
They're rebuilding.
Okay.
So a lot of their quote unquote best prospects are really new. That makes sense.
Yeah.
They're coming up. It's rough sledding for the Tigers for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
It's brutal stuff.
Yeah, it's not looking good, and a lot of people are retiring and or injured that people might know. But to start off, we have Jacoby Jones, who's an interesting defensive speed guy, maybe a bench spot person. And no one's drafting this guy as a 5 on base, but 22 speed, center field +3, left field, right field +2. Pretty good in terms of just that.
Yeah, I'm in the 8th. Unfortunately, you don't really get that with Nico.
No.
Who, as an on-base 6 is a little better. But I'm staying away from him.
Yeah, I would not draft Nico. But here's the one guy that you can draft is Nick Castellanos as the only 8 on base on the team. So that's giving you the best chance on this team for any big hits. He's got a good double range at 12.
I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, he's actually a sneaky pick. What hurts is obviously his -1 fielding. He was the worst left field, right fielder in baseball last year.
It was -20 defensive runs.
It was pretty bad. It was him and Rhys Hoskins were the worst. I think Rhys Hoskins actually was the worst.
I think they both got the -1. He might have been a right fielder.
Yeah. So the way Showdown does it, obviously they combine them, but I gave them both the -1 because they were very, very bad.
Yeah.
But he is an 8 that gets on second with 12. That's a pretty solid player.
On a 3.
Yeah, it doesn't get out much.
Cheap too, thanks to the negative fielding and the average speed. Mm-hmm. I think he's a great number 3, number 4 hitter.
Yeah,
especially in a huge league.
I feel like people are going to turn away from him when they see this -1, but he's not going to hurt you that bad. Think about most outfielders you're going to get are +0, +1. The elite ones are going to have +2, maybe a +3 or something crazy, but you're not losing too much value. We talked about this the other time with Josh Bell on the Pirates podcast, but you're not losing enough defense to make this guy that
You're
terrible.
Essentially picking a second baseman +1 or +2 who's got a great bat instead of a second baseman +5.
Yeah, so what's surprising is how bad the Tigers are and yet how draftable this guy is.
Well, and then the next guy here, Hicks, is a steep fall off.
Yes, very big. Not only is he a 6 on base, but he has 1 through 6 out. You're probably not going to get the advantage much with him. Another on 6 with.
He looks great though.
What, John Hicks?
Yeah, he might be the best looking card in this.
Yeah,
team.
And we didn't talk much about this. And I know I had a trouble with the next guy because of the white jersey, but the Tigers orange is really bold and rough to deal with. But the other thing you can do is if you make the white too strong, it sort of overpowers the background. So I really had to take the fade down a lot on this to make it reasonably attractive. And then the symbol, what do you do with the symbol? You can't have the blue symbol or the orange symbol, but I just white it out like they have on their hat. and then you give it just a little bit of a border, and it's not bad. So that's what I did with some of the cards that had the white background and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing you can't do. And I talked to you. I know I talked to you before I made the cards. I was like, I'm nervous with this color scheme. But
It's definitely a minimalist look, and I really like it.
yeah,
I'm
it's clean. It's not the navy blue typical, but it sort of is. So it's nice. It's not the strong navy blue like the Indians have or some of the other teams, but it is a subtle, different change, and it's not as vibrant as some of the other fun ones are. But I think it's still fun, or a nice style.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't really have any more. Victor Martinez is awful.
So we got Jimmer Candelario, undraftable as a 6. You got Jose Iglesias, another undraftable 6. Mickey Matuk, another undraftable 5, but he has a lot of pop. And then Victor Martinez, as you just mentioned, is my least favorite card, or maybe my most favorite, I guess, because he's the worst card in all of Showdown, in my opinion. You have the 5 on base, C-speed 10, so the lowest you can get, and DH, so you cannot play any positions.
He's a -2 first baseman now.
He's awful. I mean, he has no value at all. At least with my DH, I want like something,
Yeah.
And so I can't even like make the argument like, well, he's a fast guy, or at least he plays really good second base. He does nothing good. And this is sad because obviously I love Victor from his Indians days, and he was a really good player for the Tigers, but now he's retiring, and well, his card shows kind of why he's sort of falling off, and he's getting hurt a lot.
And then James McCann, who I think left this offseason, but he is at least he's +7 arm.
Well, and again, you hate it because he's got the slow speed, no on base, but I don't know how many catchers are going to be drafted and where. I don't know if you grab this guy just because of his arm. I hope not. I hope I don't have to rely on this guy.
Yeah.
And then their bench is filled with a 4, which at least, again, like I said, has a one plus side being that he's A-speed 23, like one of the fastest guys in the league. And then the other guy up 5, that's slow. It's rough, guys. It's really rough.
It's a bad team.
Yeah, and that's what's so funny is seeing this, and somehow they didn't lose over 100 games. But Nick Castellanos is the guy that you're drafting from that. Interestingly, they have an okay starter in Matthew Boyd, but I don't like 2 control guys.
No, and that was unfortunately kind of fell down in the tier 4 rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So he's now like Max Suzuki in the 01.
Yep.
Which, fits the picture you got for him really well, which is nice.
Yeah, I had some fun with some of these Tigers. I had some higher resolution images that I got to use. So I guess it's a plus side for all you Tigers fans listening. Your team might not be good, but at least the art came out nicely.
It looked pretty stellar.
Yeah, so Matthew Boyd came out good. And he's actually a decent card, but I don't like 2 control guys. Some people like low starters, and they like the high batter strategies. Maybe this is a guy that fits your mold. Not really for me, and I know it's not for you too, Peter.
Yeah.
And then Michael Fulmer, again, he's only a 1 control now, so he's going to hurt you. But I think I don't know if you just heard, he's going to have Tommy John.
Ugh.
So they just announced that today. So he's done for the year. So he won't even be on the Tigers next year. And that was one of their high hopes, was he was going to have a good season. I'm pretty sure Francisco Liriano is off the team. I thought he's back with the Pirates or something now.
I believe so.
So another 1 control starter. It's a little rough. And then finally you end up with Jordan Zimmerman, who just retired, I believe. And he gives up a home run. So
I feel like a brutal.
Yeah, it's not fun to make this team, and I know people are like, hey, why aren't these sets coming out faster? Well, it's hard to make some of these teams when you're making these 2 control, 1 control, 1 control, 2 control starters. They're not exactly exciting to make. No. And it's like I'm making this card that no one's going to draft. So it's a little disappointing, but I don't know. Maybe hopefully one of these guys will find a spot in some of our fans' teams, and they'll tell us these great stories of how this guy turned it around.
Somehow Jordan Zimmerman managed to survive 7 innings, a 3-hit ball.
Yeah, no homers somehow.
No doubles either.
Yeah.
He's just a terrible guy. And then the bullpen is not Well, you know what? Actually, there are bright spots in the bullpen. There's
correct. This is where you actually could find some value. Buck Farmer not draftable as a 1, but Joe Jimenez is kind of like a crappier. I always use Greg Swindell, but he was a 1 through 17 out, so he's a cheap value pick. I wouldn't want him if I didn't have to. But these next two, Alex Wilson and Drew Verhagen,
very draftable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Alex Wilson is fine a spot. If you get a 5 control guy that can just go 1 through 15, a very standard closer from like the old school showdown, he's an inning eater. He's going to give you probably 2 innings of standard baseball. This 100% being drafted in most leagues. And then Drew Verhagen, again, same thing. He's not going to kill you. He's 1 less control, which whatever kind of sucks, but definitely draftable.
And only 120 points.
Yeah, these two guys are finding spots. I think for sure Alex Wilson is probably one of the high points of this whole entire team, besides Nick Castellanos. But then Shane Green obviously drives back off, giving the home run. So not a great team. There's a couple bright spots. I think there's more bright spots here than there are in the Orioles organization.
Or the White
Sox. But I don't see this team getting better, which is kind of the sad thing. And like Peter said, they're probably a few years away from.
There's not a lot of like guys who are going to be on the team by 2021.
Yeah.
Maybe Castellanos will still be there.
I bet they trade him away for chips.
They should. They should trade him. Boyd might be around. They want Fulmer to get a bounce back so they can deal him. Yeah, there's not a lot. Maybe if Shane Green has a comeback season, he'll get dealt, or Iglesias. But yeah, they're looking for some of the young guys, like Casey Mize, I think from Auburn they drafted 1 overall last year. He's super talented and can find his way into the rotation by next year.
Oh wow!
And they've got some other young arms that they've recently acquired. So it's a teardown, but in 2 or 3 years, they're probably going to be on the come up. And it's been an organization that's spent a lot of money before.
Yes, that's true.
Led to a lot of the current problems.
Correct. And speaking of, then we'll use that as a nice transition, because I know with the money they've spent, they've had great players in the past, which can lead to these great showdown cards of Tigers of old. So why don't you break down some of these great Tigers of old that maybe can give these Tigers fans at least something to cheer about?
Yeah, and so one of the things, there's 2 teams for the Tigers that I'm really excited to try to make once this set is completed. And I've done a few for kind of their peak when they were going for it from 2011 to 2014, similar to what I did with the Giants and the Rangers from the early 2010s, where it was multiple years and just sort of the best players from those years. And I was really inspired by the idea that they had 4 Cy Young winners on their staff at once.
Mm-hmm.
Verlander, Scherzer, David Price, and Rick Porcello. So, like Justin Verlander, his 2011 season when he won the Cy Young and MVP is absolutely ridiculous. He's a tier 1. He had the most innings pitched, so he got the IP8. He's just slightly worse than that Pedro Martinez. This is out by 10 points because he gives up the double.
There.
Basically, so like the double and the less strikeouts ends up impeding him from getting over 700 points. But his 2011 teamed up with the 2013 Scherzer Cy Young winner, which is over 600 points, control 4, no doubles, 1 to 17 out, absolutely dominant. And then you've got David Price with an IP8 card coming in the number 3 slot. And for the podcast here, we've got the images up. And I sent you can see what Bob was talking about earlier with the orange being extremely vibrant and gaudy.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I sort of use as like an alternate foil type of look. And I kind of like it, but it'd be really ugly if it was the whole team.
Yeah, what's nice about this is the alt, it pops like within a team, but man, it's a rough color that they have.
Yeah, like because it's not too far off. The Mets orange is a slightly softer, and then their logo is such a softer blue that it just works together. It's less drastic of a difference between the orange and the navy. So we did orange for the Mets, which will come next week. And those I think are one of the best looking teams of the set.
And probably going to be one of the most fun teams to talk about.
I haven't made MVP Miggy Cabrera yet, but his 2012 card is going to be an on-base 10, homer at 17, double at 14, to be an absolute beast at third base. And his counterpart is first baseman Prince Fielder, which is a card I really, really like. I was always a Prince Fielder fan, but he
Prince.
had 300 that year, and not exactly the power numbers you're hoping for, but for under 400 points, it's a really good card.
It was sad to see him get, that he has that injury with his neck or whatever, then he didn't want to play anymore because he was such a good hitter.
Such a beast. And then this won't be in that set, but I had to make Pudge because I love Pudge. And so I got a really good image and cutout of Pudge Rodriguez from 2004. And
it's a very draftable card.
It's affordable, cost-effective, plus 10 on base 9.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Hard to beat that. And then the other team that I'm really excited to work on, because I really love the classic World Series teams. Been slowly working on the 1984 Tigers. As you can see here, Jack Morris. We got a different logo for the old school logo.
Mm-hmm.
The pictures are definitely going to be rougher, just because there's very little high-res, large images available. But the 1984 Tigers are going to be one of the best showdown teams we've ever made. Saying that with like the 2016 Cubs, 2017 Astros in mind. 84 Tigers are absolutely loaded. The lineup is full of on base. The rotation is stellar, and the bullpen is great. So that's a team to look forward to and should be really dominant in Matthew's like Showdown Cup.
Yep.
I would expect.
So people will be able to see these. You're going to release some blogs later on, right, about these?
Yeah, not imminent. Going to be in a while.
Yes. So hopefully everyone can convince Peter to give us some sneak peeks online. Maybe we'll have some sneak peeks in the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. But hopefully Peter will let you guys in on some of these. Really, I'm telling you, I'm looking at them right now, and they're fantastic looking. And very exciting. Like I said, that Pudge and both Prince are very draftable and very fun cards. The 4 Cy Young guys are a little pricey for me, but
I think Verlander's worth it.
Oh, Verlander is so stupid. Yeah. Like, he's so good. Yeah. Like you said, it reminds me of Pedro. I'm just like looking at the card and just looking at it and I just faced Pedro in that challenge. And if you haven't seen the challenge yet, go on the blog under the challenges tabs. You can get to the challenges. But I really didn't even get a hit off that guy. He struck out like my entire team. So I could see the same thing happening here.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. Little less strikeout range, so you'll have a few groundouts in there.
Yeah. Maybe I could sneak in a double. That's what I'm hoping. With that being said, guys, I know this is a short podcast, but the Tigers they don't have much to talk about here. I think what's going to be interesting is hopefully next week we have the Mets when Peter finishes those, and hopefully we'll have some better video quality for you guys. Maybe some more fun things coming. And I know there's fun on Twitter and stuff like that. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the podcast. Let everyone know about it. I know we have the league coming up soon for our big draft. So I know people are going to be talking about that. It's definitely exciting. Baseball starts. If you guys are listening to this tonight, hopefully if I get this posted tonight, baseball starts tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. So it's baseball season, everybody. I'm hoping everyone's pumped up. Yeah.
4:30 a.m. Let's go.
Yeah, someone on Twitter responded to me and said that's 2:30 a.m. where he's from. I was like, oh, you might as well just stay up then at that point, not go to bed. But it's going to be a rough one, but I'm excited for the baseball season to start, and I'm excited to do my fantasy baseball and for the showdown set to get completed and printed and played. And so I hope everyone's enjoying listening to us, and let us know some feedback. Also, if you guys ever have any questions, you can post them into the podcast on YouTube or on Twitter, and we can maybe even answer some of them on the next podcast or following ones. With that, Peter, do you have any following ending comments before we wrap this up?
Thank God we're almost done with these bad teams.
And we still have a couple more poor teams.
God, I need to make the Marlins and Padres.
I have the Twins and the Royals left, which are below par, but again, they have highlights on each team. And then The Mariners are the fun one, and the Rangers are kind of below. So there's only 4 more left in the AL. There's a handful of NL guys. We're almost completed here, and it should be exciting to play with during the season. And then, like you said, next year might be a little less than the 600 cards that we're making now, but it'll be a little more fun. So thank you again, Peter, and everyone have a great evening.